Anyways, let's go to Vegas now. Golden Knights insider Gary Lawless joining us. And Gary, I don't know if you saw off the top of the show, happy 21, by the way, 2021. I asked the viewers who you want to hear from, American teams. They said, Vegas, Gary Lawless. So the people have spoken, Gary. That's why you're here today.
They like me on your show because I give the commissioner of the CFL a hard time. That's all. That's why they like me.
Whatever it is, it's the truth. That's what they enjoy. Before we jump into the NHL talk, and I know it's game day for you guys, so I appreciate the time. How about Adam Bighill taking that huge haircut? Not to mention Willie Jefferson and Zach Claros and the rest. What's your read on what's going on in the CFL right now?
Well, the CFL as a business is they didn't play last year. They didn't take in any money. So, there's going to be pay cuts. There's going to be lots of economic and financial issues around the league. And players, it's not like not like the NFL or the NBA or the Major League Baseball where there is a crazy TV contract that can make the whole business profitable without any fans in the stands. The NHL, Gary Bettman has already said they're going to lose over $1 billion this year with the CFL owners. It's not that they don't have the deep pockets. They could do it. But as a business, there's no case for going that far in the hole where you would look in the future and say, okay, we're going to recoup it because we're going to do expansion. There's nowhere really to expand in Canada. Or we're going to get all kinds of more money in a TV contract. There's only the pot is only so big in the CFL. So it makes sense to me that there are financial cuts for the players. I'll be honest with you, I'm way more concerned with the people that work for the clubs. Dwayne Mandrusiak lost his job. I've got friends all across the league that have taken big pay cuts. The CFL head office, they took a whole bunch of people out of play. So I have more sympathy and concern for those people than I do for the players. It's a privilege to play. Yeah, you're the show and you deserve to get paid well for it, but only to a certain extent in the Canadian Football League. Economics dictate it is what it is.
Yep, for sure. I got guys, it's just the crazy times when people DMing me in the CFL that have lost their job or taken cuts, and they're saying, how come they're not announcing that? How come they're announcing this and these restructurings? I'm like, I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Well, there's no handbook.
No one wants to read about Gary Lawless taking a pay cut in the Argos front office or whatever team you want to pick. I'm just using that as an example. There's no interest in that. But Adam Bighill is a guy who helped bring a great cup back to Winnipeg. Charleston Hughes probably make a case to be one of the top three pass rushers in CFL history. He's right up there with the best of the best. So there's interest in the fact that those guys are taking a pay cut. That's why that's getting talked and written about.
Gotcha. So to the Golden Knights, 2-0, and they've been interesting. Been interesting games. Talk about the start to the season for the Golden Knights, please.
Yeah, well, I guess you got to talk about Anaheim because that was their opponent, and they came in, and Dallas Eakins had them a couple of things very well. They were really structured, and they worked really hard. They didn't offensively. They didn't try anything. They were not. There was no creativity in the neutral zone, and there was no creativity at the offensive blue line. It was get it in, get it down below the goal line. We've got big, heavy forwards. Let's see if we can pin Vegas's blue line in their own zone. And they did that for long stretches. I think Vegas is the superior talent. Eventually took over in game one, and they won 5-2. And then in the second game, John Gibson was really good for a long time. And then finally, Vegas got their chance late. Mark Stone had a really good weekend, 4 points. Goal and 3 assists. Goals from the Marchessault, Carlson Smith line, which is good to see early on. And the Vegas has got they're right up against the salary cap, so they played with 13 forwards and 5D on the weekend. And to me, the biggest Pietrangelo had big minutes on Saturday night, but the big story for me was Zach Whitecloud was tremendous, playing over 20 minutes in both nights, and just really looks, he is an NHL regular. And I think he's better than a bottom pair D. I think he's a middle pair D, and that's kind of what this 5D has allowed them to see. They've used a rotation, Rod, where they've taken their 5D, and every guy gets 2 shifts in a 5-shift rotation. And so they mix guys up, they move them over, and in one of those pairings is Shea Theodore and Alex Pietrangelo, and it's really fun to watch them on the ice together. And Braden McNabb had a from Davidson, Saskatchewan. Your fans will know who that is. He had a really good weekend as well. And Chandler Stevenson. Boy, Chandler's playing in between Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty, and Chandler can absolutely fly. Max Pacioretty says he's the fastest player he's ever played with. And there's kind of a metamorphosis going on for Chandler. You know, he was such a good, complete player in junior hockey. Then he got to the NHL, and he ends up in the Capitals system, and you know, their top 6 was pretty crowded. So he ends up in the bottom 6 and sometimes on the 4th line. And, you know, we just talked about how Anaheim didn't try anything offensively. Most 4th lines, they have a pretty, you know, strict rule of things they're supposed to do and things they're not allowed to do. And thinking offensively and creatively is part of that. Well, now he's playing in the middle on the top line in Vegas on a Stanley Cup contender. Well, you better be creative. And he's, I think we're starting to see him in his mind click from being a defense-only guy to being a guy who can think offensively. And it'll be interesting to see how far he can go this year.
He was a defensive guy in junior. I did the games on TV, and I remember when he had braces. So I'm always looking at his teeth when I see him play with you guys. It was a great investment by his parents, and I love him. And, you know, Gary, this is not a shock to you. I mention it with you every time we visit. The amount of Golden Knights fans up here is unbelievable. 2 Sask kids, 5 Manitobans, including Zach Whitecloud. And I mentioned 4 Winnipeg kids in your lineup the other night with Keegan Kolazar, Cody Glass, Mark Stone, and Ryan Reeves. People in Winnipeg took that as a shot that I pointed that out. I'm like, it's not a shot, it's an observation. But why do you think that? I mean, it was planned.
It's interesting. I think that Vegas would be, you know, kind of like a second team to a lot of Winnipeggers when you see all of the Manitoba content in the lineup, except for the fact that they had a really good team in 17-18, and I think that they thought they had a shot at winning the Stanley Cup until they ran into Vegas. And I think that there's a rivalry. I don't blame them. I think there's a rivalry. I think that they look at the Golden Knights and go, those guys got in our way. We don't like them. Despite the fact that, you know, Kelly McCrimmon, although from Plenty, Saskatchewan, has made his home in Brandon for an awfully long time. And obviously, as you know, had his association with the Wheat Kings for decades. And then, you know, Shane Knighty is from Neepawa. And then, you know, Von Karpen is the director of pro scouting. He's from Flin Flon. You just go through the organization. There's Manitobans all over the place. So I think there would be good reason for Manitoba to like the Vegas Golden Knights, except for the fact that they knocked them out in 5 in the spring of 2018.
Good reason to dislike them for that reason. Okay, I could talk to you all day with my questions, Gary, but I'm going to go to the board. The viewers want to. Great. Yeah, of course. The good questions come out now. They want to know, the Oilers need a goalie. What are the chances of MarcAndre Fleury? What's it going to take to get MarcAndre Fleury off the Golden Knights?
We'll take Draisaitl. That'll be a fair deal. No, I have no idea. I have no... MarcAndre Fleury was fantastic on Saturday night, and the competitive advantage that the Golden Knights have right now by having a rotation that consists of Robin Lehner on one night and MarcAndre Fleury on the next. There's a couple of things. In the West Division, you play every series is a back-to-back. So you play 2 against Anaheim. Now they actually have 4 in a row against Arizona. Then they have 2 against St. Louis, and it's sets of 2 throughout the whole year. Well, you play Robin Lehner in the opener, and the team gets used to, you know, okay, he's a big guy. Well, this is how we're going to have to beat him. And then 2 nights later, they come back with MarcAndre Fleury, who has a completely different style. So it kind of, you know, it's like having a lefty and a righty in your rotation that you can go back and forth with in baseball. So it confuses the batting order to a certain extent. Plus, they're both elite. So, I don't think Vegas has any interest in helping out Edmonton. That would not surprise me if Vegas was to win the West and Edmonton was to win the North. I'm not predicting that. Montreal is my favorite team in the North. I think that they have a really good chance of winning it, but no one should be surprised if it's Edmonton. And I don't think Vegas would want to play Marc-Andre Fleury in the Western Conference Final. To me, that would be very little interest in that, unless the return. And again, I don't think that I wouldn't trade him. I wouldn't. But if the return is such that it blows you away, well, then that's professional sport.
So the answer is he's not for sale, basically.
I'm not if I'm calling the shots. That's for sure.
Yeah. One of our viewers watching from Dallas, Texas, USA, Jeffy Capiti. Welcome, Jeffy. Glad to have you aboard. Nelson Hackowicz. Can you guys put up the question from Nelson? He's one of the biggest Golden Knights fans that I know. And while you're finding that question, how about those gold unis the other night, Gary? That's a lot of gold on the ice at one time.
Live, it looks tremendous. I don't know how it translates to the television set. And I can't wait to have the building, T-Mobile Arena, full with 18,000 plus, all in their gold, and the players all in their gold. It will look, it'll be something else. I was asked to put the gold jerseys the other night, and I said, well, they certainly aren't the Cleveland Browns, that's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, Nelson's question was about the future for Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, is it as talked about as much down there as it is up here? Because it's talked about every day, Gary, where Marc-Andre Fleury. Shoot, I had Gus Farrat on the air the other day, and he talked about Marc-Andre Fleury because he's a Penguins fan. He's like, why'd you take him from us if you aren't going to use him? Like, it's a huge topic, buddy.
He's played a ton, okay? Like they acquired a goalie last year at the deadline, and the head coach made his decision in the playoffs. But, to me, it's an open competition right now. I think that both guys are elite, and this is a condensed season. You saw what Montreal did, going out and hiring and acquiring Jake Allen to help out with Carey Price. It just, to me, it's a huge advantage for the Golden Knights. And what's Marc-Andre Fleury's future? He'll probably be playing on Wednesday night. That's his future.
Right. I'll get to the comment from Trenton, Norway. Hang on a second. My last one for you, Gary, is about with the new coach, Peter DeBoer. Well, new, because I think it's about a year to the day almost that he took over there. What's the style going to be?
What do you mean? Sorry, say that again.
What's the style going to be? Is it going to be run and gun? Is it going to be shut down defensively? Do you want to push the pace, or you can just play whatever style you want? What's the identity going to be under Peter DeBoer? Have you found it yet?
Well, for sure, and it is really heavy on the forecheck. Get out of the zone quickly, activate the D, get them involved in the offensive zone. We want to play in the offensive zone just like everybody else does, but and I also think that we want to dictate the pace and how the team plays. The other night, Anaheim, for big stretches of the game, they were able to do what they wanted to do. So playing with the lead is important for Vegas, and as much as they can do that, they will.
Producer Clark wants to know, was it a difficult decision to make Mark Stone captain, and what is it about Stone's leadership that earned him the C?
I don't think it was difficult at all. And I recall a conversation that I had with Ryan Reeves and Jonathan Marchessault just a couple of weeks after he'd been traded to Vegas, and we were sitting in the room, and we were on the opposite side of the dressing room, and Mark was talking to some media, and I said to Reeves, I know Mark a little bit, but I was curious to see how he was settling in. I said, how's he doing? And he just looked at me and he said, well, he's our captain. I said, what are you talking about? He's been here for 2 weeks. He said, you can't help it. You follow him. He is one of those leaders that whatever he does, you want to follow him. He's a huge team guy. He's happier than anybody when a teammate scores. He wants to win. He does all the little things right. So, Kelly McCrimmon made an interesting comment the other day. He said that putting the C on Mark Stone will actually improve his game. I asked Mark about it, and he said, well, I already put a lot of pressure on myself, but now there's some external pressure in the fact that, I'm supposed to live up to this letter and this responsibility, and that will motivate me even more, I believe. So it's interesting comments there, and I think Mark's a great choice, and I think making Pietrangelo an alternate and Riley Smith the other. I like all those guys and the way they compete and who they are as people. So good choices.
A fantastic Golden Knights update. And Gary, so now you know. They love you up here if you didn't know before. Good luck tonight, and keep in touch, my man.
When do these guys get rolling?
Still the champs until they're not. Thanks, Gary. Gary Lawless in Vegas, Golden Knights Insider. You can follow all their stuff at the Golden Knights website or follow him on Twitter at Gary Lawless.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.